Welcome back. We are talking about $1 million careers and how to set yourself up for $1 million career if that's what you want to do. And I'm back with my buddy Rob Houghton. And Rob, good to see you today. Happy Friday.
Good morning, Craig. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good.
You doing any surfing today?
No, I went to the gym. I just came straight from the gym to the office. Haven't even showered yet. It's awesome. I love Fridays.
You've got to figure out a workout that you could do on the beach, man, because I know how much you like the ocean.
I've got one, but then you get all sandy and, it's kind of nasty. So anyway,
yeah,
I'm just not ready for that yet, but there's a good one. I should get out there more.
Good, man. Yeah.
So all good. So, good topic today.
Yeah, man.
I mentor college kids. There's the local university, they pick business leaders out locally and they have a good mentoring program. And I was talking to a couple college kids today. And then interestingly enough, I ran into some friends last night and just by happenstance, and we went and got a beer. We were out, we ran into each other and we went and got a beer. And the topic became, can you create a curriculum around making kids successful? How do you teach it? And what's the message? And it all came down back to the conversation I had with the college kids. Elevate your neighborhood. Always be curious. Elevate your neighborhood. Find people who are better than you. And listen. And always be seeking out people who are better than you.
Yeah, they say that you're the average of the 5 people that you're the closest to in terms of friendship.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
As one way I like to put it, some people take offense to this. I go, ditch your loser friends.
Absolutely.
Ditch your loser friends. And I don't mean ditch your friends, ditch your friends. I mean, ditch your friends that don't bring you up. Your work colleagues who are quietly quitting, ditch them. If you're moving 100 miles an hour and they want to move it too, get rid of them. Go find people who want to hang out and run 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My old man used to tell me, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The old man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. People, it's crazy. People who smoke dope hang out with other people who smoke dope. They don't go anywhere. I noticed the Harvard people all hang out with Harvard people. And they're usually hanging out at some expensive restaurant on Fifth Avenue. Maybe there's a correlation here, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I like your acronym ABC. Now, ABC, always be curious. ABC in my office is always be closing. But I kind of like the ABC, knowledgeable mind without curiosity is like poetry without essence. Very important. Curiosity is one of the 4 things we talked about. I think it was about a year ago. We talked about the 4 things that the Harvard Business Review came out about what makes a really successful, talented CEO. Mm-hmm. And I still remember, number 1 was determination. Number 2 was insight. Number 3, curiosity. Number 4, interpersonal communication skills.
Yep.
I'll send anybody the article who wants to see it. But yeah, curiosity is in the top 4. Intellectual curiosity is extremely important.
So I had a conversation with a guy who called me up the other day. And we were talking. He's like, look, cubicles do horrible things to people's minds. And this is one thing I hate about work from home. If you work from home, you're on an island. I mean, yeah, it's great. You don't have to drive to work. And look, there are people in the world who are just happy, doing their thing. That's cool. But the thing I hate about work from home is it becomes very difficult for people to grow. if they want to grow. There's no personal interaction. Everything is Zoom, phone call. You have to make an effort to get out. And I think cubicles do the same thing to people. You stick people in a cubicle, and all of a sudden it's like that racehorse with blinders on. They just see what's in front of them, and they don't see what's around. So a guy calls me up the other day and he's like, look, I am really tapped out. He goes, I'm in a place where, look, I got a great job, and he does have a good job. And he's very well respected. He's got a good job. He goes, but I'm not growing. And my boss isn't going to leave. And I'm not going to grow here. And I can muddle along in a good job for another 10 years, but I'm bored. And he's got his blinders on. He said two things. Here's two things or three things you can do. One, figure out where you want to go. And then you've earned the right as an executive or a professional where you are. You've earned the right to reach out to other people in the industry. Go talk to the CEO of Acme Corporation, or go email the CEO, go call him, set up an appointment with him, or go call a peer of yours at another company, or go find a company that you think is really cool because you're doing some stuff, that they're calling on you all the time. Maybe you call them back. You've earned that right. And just say, hey, look, what do you do? How did you get there? Tell me more. Here's what I'm doing. I'm feeling a little stuck. If you hear of something that might be cool, I'd like to know about it. That's a conversation.
Yeah.
Everybody can have. Yeah. And people, they sit in their cubicles and they go, I'm not worthy of that. Or I'm just a guy or a girl sitting in a cubicle. And, it sucks the life out of them. But that's the first thing they can do.
Yeah, you become what's called a jag.
A jag?
Just another guy.
Just another guy.
Can never fall into that trap.
And what's it's like, the idle mind is the devil's playground, right?
Exactly.
When you're sitting in your cubicle looking at the ceiling going, what have I done with my life? It's like sitting in jail, and it's mentally draining, and the devil is banging on your brain and making you crazy. So that's one. Reach out, network. There's a great article. I got to find it, but it was written by a Hollywood producer who said, lean out the window and start having conversations. And he made, just because he leaned out the window and started having conversations with people, his whole mind expanded. So that's one.
Well, yeah, I totally get that. So I've always felt like, curiosity and questions will get you a lot further than confidence and answers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ask the question and just shut up and listen. The smartest guy in the room is usually the dumbest.
Absolutely.
Or the person who thinks they're the smartest in the room is usually the dumbest.
It's the gray man you got to watch out for.
Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing, is curiosity. If you're not having conversations with people in your industry and reaching out to people you don't know and just saying, hey, I want to know you. I want to build a relationship. I want to know what you do. You can do that. People will open themselves up to people who say, hey, just tell me more about you, because their favorite subject is themselves. And they're happy to tell you about themselves.
Yeah.
And their company and what's going on. But if you ask, like, hey, you got any jobs? The answer is, no, because you're asking for something. You're asking for something. But if you're saying, hey, tell me about yourself, tell me what you do, you will learn so much. But that's one thing. The second thing I was telling this fella, I go, look, you are the guy. You think about what you do every day. And you think about, you're very humble and you think it's no big deal, but it really is. And you think about who's calling on you Who's calling you every day? All these sales guys are calling him all the time. And he's on the customer advisory board for some big companies. I said, you have knowledge. Go get on LinkedIn, expand your profile on LinkedIn and start putting up posts. 3 things to know before you go buy a jet. 3 things I wish I'd learned before, I did this, and take it as an industry expert because you are the industry expert. So always be curious, but start putting yourself out there and become the guy.
Yeah.
It's not very hard. People want to learn from you too.
Yeah, you want to be the go-to guy, that's for sure. Yeah.
I read your stuff all the time, Ron.
You read my stuff all the time?
All the time. Love it.
I'm just a country boy, man.
I saw your podcast with Pete Gold.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was good.
The Green Beret, huh?
The Green Beret.
That guy's got a lot of wisdom, man.
Did you see the New York Times article?
About what?
About the Navy, a recent New York Times. Yeah, one of the kids who just, he was a college athlete, made it through SEAL training, and then died hours later.
I saw that.
And there's and he's talking about how Navy SEAL training needs to be totally upended because somebody died. As much as I feel for the guy who died and his family, trust me there. And I think there were some failures in that. There were some failures there, but you don't upend. It's pilots. Navy and Air Force pilots die all the time in training. You don't change the training, right? Anyway. Yeah. And the reason I say that is, hey, look, at the end of the day, you're looking for people who have, Pete Gold was interesting. The training is meant to be hard for a reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because what comes after it is hard. The work is hard.
Yeah. In special operations, you have to train to standard. There is no time limit. You have to train a standard because it's life and death out there. And the reason why that training is hard is for a reason, There can't be any weak links in a team because your team is only as strong as the weakest link. So
your team is as strong as the weakest link. And that comes into business. If you got a quiet quitter out there, there's your weakest link.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it. The people who are slacking. Everybody knows that people are slacking. They just don't have the courage to get rid of them.
Yeah, that goes back to your point. If you've got quiet quitters in your organization, you have to divorce yourself from hanging out with those people.
Yeah, elevate the neighborhood.
Elevate the neighborhood. Yeah.
Don't be hanging out with the person who's bitching and whining. Don't be hanging out with a person who's, mañana time at 5. I mean, look, like I said, we're not talking about people who are just happy, being okay, average.
Hey, the purpose of what we do on this show, the $1 Million Career, our audience, who I speak with, are people that want the $1 Million Career.
Yeah.
I don't care if anybody's watching out here that is a quiet quitter. Who cares? Mm-hmm. I could care less about that guy. I'm trying to reach, and you're trying to reach, the people that want $1 million career. All we're doing is opining some advice here, and that is, you've got to be the average of the 5 people you hang out with at home and in the office. Mm-hmm. Ask a lot of questions and be curious.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's, when I think about all the advice I give to young professionals, college kids, I'm like, okay, be curious, always be learning. Look, market yourself a little bit. People, as I tell the college kids, I go, people are checking you out. And they're checking you out on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And if they show you, if all your pictures of you are of you hanging out in bars with your frat buddies or sorority sisters, drinking and having a good time, doing shots. And that's that's the image people get of you. That image will pay $20 an hour, on an offer. But if they see you, making logical posts, writing articles about things you read, it shows a mental capacity that they want.
Yeah.
And that's how look, that's what people are looking for. It's like, how does this person think?
Hey, it's a good thing we didn't put those photographs in Saratoga on LinkedIn and on our Instagram, huh?
What 4 middle-aged guys smoking cigars and drinking wine on the back porch?
I wasn't thinking of those photos.
Don't go there.
No, it's all good, man. Curiosity is actually a sign of intelligence. That's why it's on an HBR list. I'll take a curious person over a knowledgeable person
all day long.
Any day of the week, man. Any day.
All day long.
I've got a guy in my office. All this guy does is just ask questions, one question after another. He's the smartest guy.
Mm-hmm. My son is interesting. I mean, he really amazes me, and everybody's proud of their kids. So I'll throw that out there with but he's a 4.0 student. He's a senior at University of North Carolina with a 4.0 GPA. I mean, and this to me is I think about what he does. He is a biology and chemistry major with a 4.0 GPA. He teaches 2 classes. He's 20 years old, not even 21 years old. He teaches 2 biology classes at the university level as a teacher's assistant. They just give him the class. You go teach it. He's a peer mentor, and he's a full-time paramedic for Orange County, North Carolina. That's a big load. And he came home a couple of weeks ago, and he's a lot of fun. He's kind of a funny kid. We don't talk that much. He and my wife are like yak 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 yak. Him and I, it's kind of like dude stuff. Hey Rye, how's it going? Good. What'd you do today? Nothing. It's kind of like that. It is. It is what it is. But I asked him. I go, look, you're doing really well. What do you attribute it to? He goes, well, YouTube. When he doesn't understand something, or even when he was in high school, when he didn't understand something, he used to get on YouTube and he would just Google biology, subject matter of I don't know, whatever biology subject he was. And he would listen to a couple of lectures over and over and over again until he understood it.
Hey, I wonder if he watches us on YouTube.
No.
To try and get ahead in his career. Huh?
Come on, kids don't learn anything from their parents. They'll take advice from everybody else, but never from their parents.
Yeah, but this is the $1 million career, man.
This is the $1 million career.
He's got to be watching this.
No, he doesn't. But I was always impressed with his quietly, never told anybody that's what he did, but he's like, yeah, I get on YouTube. I go, when I don't understand things, I get on YouTube and I go find it and I go, somebody explains it to me.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty cool. I like that. So I like the curiosity, but I like his intellectual ability to go out and he's like, hey, look, the information's there. It's right in front of you. You just got to go find it.
He sounds like a really curious guy. Yeah.
He's interesting. He called me. He called Lisa up the other night, and she's like, Saturday morning. He calls her up, and she's like, "How you doing?" He goes, "I was up all night." What happened? Well, we got a call at 3:00 in the morning. Somebody went into cardiac arrest. He did CPR on somebody for an hour. He made $20. He makes $22 an hour. He did CPR on some guy for an hour, saved his life. He makes $22. He's like, most excited, and he doesn't care about the money. He's like, yeah, he's off. He's going to go to med school. He wants to go to med school. He's like, yeah.
He's the kind of guy who'll save a life at 3 a.m. At 7:30, he'll walk into his classroom,
ready to go.
plus on a test,
ready to go. So, yeah, look, okay. I'm proud of my son. There you go. We're all proud of our kids. But, and I think the last thing we were talking about to these kids was, always be curious, elevate your neighborhood, show people what's inside your brain is huge. But I think the key to that $1 million career is really finding, and I think companies are horrible about this. They should be doing it more. They should be focusing on it more, but they should really be quietly, look, who your good players are. You really know who the leaders are in your organization. And the leaders in the organization should be mentoring, should be coaching the up and comers.
Yeah, that's, I did a blog about that. Actually, the blog comes out this coming Friday on what I call quiet hiring. Mm-hmm. And what that is exactly what you just described. It's hiring authorities, supervisors, and leaders of these organizations identifying those people who are having an impact in their organization and very quietly, without a lot of fanfare, providing them with the resources necessary in terms of providing leadership opportunities, providing management opportunities, mm-hmm. providing financial resources for continuing education, continuing certificates, basically enabling and empowering those people in the organization mm-hmm. who are not quietly quitting, but are performing above and beyond the call of duty. And that's what I call quiet hiring. Smart companies are quietly hiring. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal. One of the companies that does this the best, that was actually profiled, is Google. Google's really, really good about quietly hiring. Mm-hmm. They put together actually a talent committee. I think it's of 5 people, and they came up with the attributes. What are the attributes that we value in our company? And they come up with 8. I think they call them the Elite 8. And basically, their senior management, senior leadership knows what these attributes are. So they're continually looking. They're like basically talent scouts. Mm-hmm. And they use this primarily internally. So if they identify somebody, it comes up to the committee, that person is identified and they're quietly, mm-hmm. quote unquote, hired. In other words, they're going to groom this person now. And then when they look externally, they educate their recruiters. They educate their HR department. We want to quietly hire these kinds of people. I call them the RKGs, the right kind of guy or the right kind of gal. Organizations need those RKGs. And that's what quiet hiring is all about. And that's exactly what you just described.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Big companies have their leadership development programs. And I'll come out and tell the CEOs of Raytheon, Air Products, straight up, leadership development programs. Here's what they do. They go to the best universities in the country, and they go find these kids coming out of the universities, and they attract them to their company, and then they put them in this leadership development program, which is a rotation where all these young 20-somethings spend 6 months or a year. GE does it. I've seen a lot of it. And they recruit these people in from, and it's an elitist program. And what they do with that, and here's where I have serious heartburn from it. I'm really yet to see anybody that comes out of the LDP program succeed. I'm like, yeah, great. You got to see 20 different things, but you did absolutely nothing. You had no success. So that's my big heartburn right there. But then where my bigger heartburn is somewhere in that organization, there is a person who worked their way through Murray State or pick a college.
I almost went there, man.
Yeah, there you go. Like I'm just pick a university, and they worked their way through it, and they kicked and scratched, and they did everything they could, and then they're in your company, and they're looking for opportunity, and they're seeking opportunity, and you just denied it to them because you chose to go find these elite people out there. And so you sucked the life out of somebody, some ferocious player in your company who, with a little bit of guidance, would become a star. And what does that person do? They leave. And then you're stuck with these LDP program people who you rotated around, taught nothing to. You showed them a bunch of stuff. You really didn't teach them anything. You didn't give them anything to do. And then, you suck the life out of one or two people in your organization because the message is you're really not good enough. We're going to go out and recruit elsewhere.
I'll give you a personal example. So I'm going to date myself now. 1979. Okay. Way back in the day.
Did they have cars then?
They basically had fast bicycles back then.
All right.
I had a 10-speed. No. So I was between my junior and senior year at St. Bonaventure University.
Mm-hmm.
I was an average student. I was a 2.9 student, worked my ass off.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, probably because I was playing Division I basketball at the same time and balancing, competitive sports and athletics, had a 2.9 average. Didn't have a lot of offers. Sent out 100 letters to different companies in Houston, Texas. Wanted an internship with a Fortune 500.
Okay.
I got 3 responses. First 2, after driving down to Houston from St. Bonaventure, which is about a 2.5-day drive, I'm down to my last company, Arco Oil and Gas.
Okay.
Oh, the old Atlantic Richfield, right? I'm sitting in this guy's office, this crusty old chief growth officer at that time. And he's like, hey, you wanted a conversation? Because that's all I wanted was a conversation. All I wanted was a conversation. He goes, here's our conversation. You're a great guy. I get it. You drove your car down here, played college basketball, 2.9 average. You want a job here, but we've only got 2 slots, leadership development program. And I said, you don't have a third? And he says, I just have budget for 2 slots. And I said, I'll take any job you want. I just want to work here as an accountant. I was an accounting major. He opens up his file. He opens up his file drawer. There must have been a foot, 12-inch stack of resumes. He goes, and these are my backups. And I said, do you give me an opportunity? I'll outwork those 2 guys. I said, I'll work for a minimum wage. I just want a spot. I just want to work here at Arco because, to be honest with you, I just drove 2.5 days and this is the last stop. I'm not driving back to New York without a job. So you can put me in the kitchen, emptying garbage. I will literally do anything to work because this is the last stop. And he looks at me and he looks at the stack of resumes and he says, he goes, I'll get you a job he says, I'll hire you as an accounting processor, minimum wage. I'll give you a cubicle. And if you want to call that an internship with Arco Oil and Gas, call it an internship. And I said, sir, I will tell you what, I'll be back down here in 2 weeks to start this job for the summer. And I'm going to outwork those 2 guys, whoever they are, into the ground. And I'll make you proud of me. And we shook hands. He goes, I'll see you in 2 weeks. I come down in 2 weeks. The 2 LDP guys, the Leadership Development Program, I'll never forget this. One guy was from Harvard. The other guy was from Stanford. Okay. They had 2 nice offices. I mean, like executive offices, right? And they show up the first day. I'm in jeans and a polo shirt. These guys, $1,000 Hickey Freeman suits. And they roll in there. I'm in my cubicle. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to kick their asses, And I remember every morning I'd show up at like 7:00. And these guys are rolling about 9. And they were doing tours and the VIPs, and they were doing a lot of nothing, basically. Meanwhile, I'm doing real accounting work, processing invoices from offshore drilling rigs. I was the last guy to leave, and that got noticed. So this chief growth officer came down after about 2 weeks, right? And he goes, hey, Rob, he says, you're starting to make these 2 guys look bad. He goes, everybody's been talking about you. You're the star down here, man. You're coming in. turning the lights on, leaving the office late, turning the lights off. These two guys are 2-3 hour lunches. He goes, man, he says, you got to let up, man. You're making these guys really bad. I said, I told you I was going to kick their asses. I'm going to kick their asses. Yeah. They thought they were so superior to me that they never even said good morning. Okay.
Yeah.
After 4 weeks, one of the guys was terminated because he just wasn't working. I got that slot. He called me in the office and says, you're my new leadership development guy. I said, sir, I don't want the office. I want to stay at my cubicle. I'm going to continue to work really, really hard, but I don't need it. He gave me the extra money, which was a raise from like $600 a month to like $3,000 or something. So that was nice. At the end of the summer, he offered me the job. He offered me the same job that the leadership development guy was going to get.
Just take it.
I turned it down, man. Turned it down. Had a better job offer, man. Because during those 2 months in Houston, my ultimate goal was to work for a Big 8 accounting firm. So just like you said, I made those connections. I networked, had informal conversations. At the end, when they wanted me to accept the offer to work for ARCO, I made a pit stop. Stopped down at the Arthur Anderson office, which at that time was the largest public accounting firm in the country. Hit the 17th floor button, went to the managing partner's office, Milt Fortson, asked him for a job, told him my whole story. He hired me on the spot.
Well, there you go.
That was it, man. That was all on me.
Yeah.
Just purely hard work.
Well, we heard the same thing. Our buddy Jack, his Naval Academy appointment. He rides his bicycle down to the senator's office in the rain.
There you go, man. Yeah.
And he's all soaking wet. And, all the other people are there with their mothers. And he goes and rides his bike down in the rain by himself. And he's like, look, I need this. Exactly. Like, I need this. Those guys they're going to be just fine. They're out there with their moms, and their mothers will take care of them. I need this in life. I don't have a backup.
Yeah, exactly.
And he got the appointment and now he runs accomplished software executive, runs a company. That was the backbone. I need this. Failure is not an option. I love that. So anyway, but that's kind of my complaint about the LDP programs. That's what I loved about officer candidate school in the Navy. The Harvard guys got their heads shaved just the same as everybody else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there was no elitism. But that's the LDP programs to me are the ones that they suck the competitive out of the. You got your people in there who came up. They just. They want to compete. They want to play. They want $1 million careers too. And you come in and you say, we're recruiting from the outside. It's like, well, what about me? What? So, anyway, that's it. So how do people get a hold of you, Rob?
Rob at mrfairfax.com. I'm on LinkedIn. We do podcasts. We do blogs. Go to my website. Everything's there, www.mrfairfax.com. And thanks for the plug, Craig. Look forward to talking with you next week, man.
Awesome. Thanks for coming back on, Rob.
All right, Craig. Thanks, man.
I hope you enjoyed the latest edition of the Aerospace Executive Podcast. You can reach out to me directly, Craig at northstaresg.com, or check us out at www.northstaresg.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, or on YouTube. Just do a search for Aerospace Executive Podcast. Thanks again. I'm Craig Piven.